I'd like to introduce our panelists today. We've got Elizabeth Newall. She's the Associate Director for Teaching and Learning at the University of Nottingham. James Crooks, who's Director of Learning and Information Services at UCLan. And Cephas Grant, who is a recent graduate from Nottingham University Business School and now is a market research analyst. So before we kick off with the discussion with our panelists today, I'd like to take you through a little bit of scene setting and perspective from our side around how we think about skills. So one of the big things that we've seen is coming through COVID and coming into the post-pandemic phase, or hopefully the post-pandemic phase, we saw that using digital tools became super, super important. In fact, it was the only way we could continue educating students in higher education. And that's really created a profound change in the way that both faculty are teaching, but also in the expectations of students, in that now every single student is fully aware, I don't need to get up at 9 a.m. for that lecture anymore. I can watch that lecture online and I can go to my seminars or my research labs and do that collaborative experience in the campus, but I can also spend some learning time at home and not always be doing everything face to face. So we're also seeing that the higher education student population is changing, which is exacerbating that kind of trend of desiring a more anytime, anywhere learning experience where students are looking for a mix of online and in-person learning, especially as the average student is now getting older. And we're seeing that more and more students are coming back to education as part of lifelong learning strategies and wanting to retrain, to reframe their careers. And so there's an increased need for having blended learning approaches that they can access their learning whenever fits them so that they can balance professional life, family life, and study life. So we're also seeing that because of COVID, the digital transformation in the economy has massively accelerated. So almost every single job now requires digital skills to some degree. In the little village that I live in back home, for instance, the local bakery, the local butchers, they only took cash before COVID. Now even they have an online website where I can order what I want and go and pick it up using a password and a code to get what I've ordered. So we're seeing that from the most typically non-digital profession through to the most sophisticated professions, everything is becoming more digital, and everybody really needs to learn how to be not just capable of using digital technologies in terms of working online, collaborating with colleagues, doing all of those kind of fundamental things that are important in the digital world, but also becoming really, really deeply digital, understanding cutting-edge technologies like the cloud, like data, like AI, and being able to create solutions, apps, processes, tools that harness the power of those technologies, irrespective of whether you're a medical professional or you're working in advertising and marketing. So we see all of these things going on. It's challenging for universities to deal with all of these different areas and different aspects of introducing digital skills into the curriculum and into the way that we teach and learn. And so at Microsoft, we really want to work closely with institutions to find ways to help innovation happen in terms of digital teaching and learning, to boost workplace productivity success for students, to get that world-class digital curriculum into institutions and certifications along with that, as well as help to personalize the coaching journey for students getting into the job market. So I'm going to turn over now to our panelists to discuss some of this, because we've seen some really amazing things going on in your institutions through and post-COVID. So first of all, I'd like to turn to you, James. Could you share a little bit of the experience of UCLan in dealing with this new digital teaching and learning paradigm and how you've evolved it?
Yeah, thanks, Alexa. Absolutely. And one of the big areas that we focused on at UCLan, going back to for the last 3 years really, and it predates COVID, but set us up really nicely for it, was the investment in our academic colleagues. So we've invested in, we launched a project in line with our learning and teaching strategy that focused on three things really: investment in our places, which became less important as COVID sort of took off, but investment in our people, and the third area was in our practice. So for the people investment, it was really around giving them the skills and the device that they can work with, really effectively to promote and to inspire sort of new ways of promoting and supporting learning and teaching in a modern classroom. The Places investment was around sort of regenerating our classrooms, which I won't talk much about because that became less and less important as we shifted to online during the pandemic. But the investment in practice was really around a comprehensive program of academic development. So we launched a scheme called UCLan, which colleagues have presented at this conference about when it was last on. But it was really a sort of a framework of academic development that focused on a core set of capabilities that are consistent and can be consistently applied across every role in an organisation, but with a focus on the academic community to start with. And there was a foundation level which was consistent across everywhere. There was a practitioner level which took it to another level and promoted much more in the sort of in the way of sharing and collaborating. And then there was a champion level, which a good number of people across our organisation now proudly wear their UCLan Champions badge, and are basically our advocates internally and externally for all of the good things that we do around digitally enhanced teaching and learning. And now we're taking that to a next stage by creating digital development coaches. So rather than focusing just on sort of core capabilities, we're really focusing on confidence and creativity through digital, particularly for subject areas like performing arts or for art and design and all those sort of creative subjects where there's a real sort of different dimension that you can apply to digital creativity. So that's a significant area of focus for us at the university. And those digital development coaches are now focusing on particular areas of practice that span multiple disciplines. So things like assessment, things like feedback, but also around simulated learning. As a predominantly teaching-focused university, we have huge amounts of courses that focus on practical disciplines, and having simulated learning practitioners who were using VR and some of those augmented reality techniques, and seeing them sort of bring their ideas to fruition through that sort of technology is absolutely fantastic. And they can take that away and use their Microsoft Surface devices or whatever device they've got to really bring that to life.
Thanks, James. It's really exciting to hear how you've kind of moved the whole institution from sort of faculty-centric digital teaching and learning into something which is much more multimodal, much more creative and rich in terms of the student experience. So I'd like to turn over to you now, Cephas, as a recent graduate. What was your expectation in terms of digital experiences at university, and what worked well, and what would you aspire to?
All right, so I would say that firstly, I gained digital capabilities as a student, and it really helped me in my learning and also in the real world. So as part of my postgraduate studies, I undertook a business engagement project with students from other disciplines, which we were able to collaborate to share ideas and relevant documents, which helped us in completing the project. And on a personal level, with the use of Teams, I was able to access other third-party applications, for example, the Quizlet, which helped me in enhancing my understanding on various course models. Yeah, and also obtaining the Microsoft certification in Azure Data Fundamentals has also expanded my knowledge in various methods of data exploration, such as business intelligence. And now I'm able to use the Power BI in analyzing and visualizing data to generate insights for my firm managers, and it has really helped them in their business decision making. And what I think could be improved is trying to create that environment for students to be conversant about the skills that they have to learn, what they have to learn next, and what they can do to find a specific job. Because according to research by the global Microsoft, 68% of students don't really understand the skills that they use to start their career. And also 50% do not know how to find a specific job. So it's something really alarming, and I think if we integrate Microsoft in this by using the career coach, it will help students identify employment goals aligned with their passion, their interests, and their skills using an AI-based skills identifier. And also with the LinkedIn Learning, it will help students to align their comprehensive profile with the market trends. So with a personalized experience, students will be able to have inspiration for different career options, connect with alumni, connect with peers, connect with faculty, and also be able to undertake courses from Microsoft to enhance their career prospects. Yeah.
Thanks, Cephas. So it's great to hear about your journey and your vision, which I think is a good call to action. So I'd like to turn it over now to Elizabeth. And within the university, you've had a very student-focused strategy. You've got this digital student project. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in that?
Yes, of course. So back in 2018, our Careers and Employability Service published its professional competencies in the curriculum, and it had articulated that there should be 4 principal professional competencies to be embedded within all programs at the institution. And one of those 4 professional competencies was digital capabilities. It was around that time that I was asked to move into this space to look at what the gaps were for students in developing their digital capabilities, what were the gaps in our provision. And the work led to what is now a live programme called Student Digital Capabilities. Well, it's a delivery plan. It's broken down into 3 work streams, which are tracking the support that's required for students at different stages in their learning journey. So we have the digital student, which is supporting students coming into the institution, the digital researcher, which is that kind of mid-stage on either an undergraduate programme or a postgraduate programme where students are about to embark on a dissertation or similar. And then we have the digital graduate, which is then kind of wrapping around the student, those additional capabilities required to transition into the workplace. What was fundamental to the direction of that programme were insights that we got from our alumni. So we surveyed those who'd graduated within 5 years and asked them a set of questions relating to their digital capabilities. We use the JISC framework in order to help give some understanding as to what is it that we mean, what is it that we're talking about when we talk about digital capabilities. That framework breaks down into 15 distinct areas, so that's what we used in order to explore the alumni experience, both in terms of what they need now, what they might need in the future, and what might have better prepared them on their courses at Nottingham. What we found was, not surprisingly, that the international workplace, because 40% of the alumni are working overseas, find that the workplace is a Microsoft workplace. But then 3 key areas of capability fell out that we really need to focus on. First and foremost, data literacy. So anything from collecting, managing, visualizing and reporting data through to the use of data analytics and big data, large data sets. There are a lot of references to Excel. Then following on from that, digital creation. So students, and what was interesting here was that our graduates were from a range of disciplines, so from the arts, social sciences, as well as STEM subjects. And they said that they would have liked some kind of grounding in programming and coding. And then thirdly, digital innovation. So again, the alumni wanting to have had an understanding around AI and cloud computing before entering into the workplace. So that's what our programme is focusing in on.
Thanks, Elizabeth. There's amazing insights and incredibly well-designed programme, and exciting to hear about. I want to come back to you, James. I think both Cephas and Elizabeth have been talking about the importance of employers, and obviously there's increasing scrutiny in terms of graduate outcomes and graduate employability for all universities in the UK. Could you tell us a little bit about the importance of partnering with employers and with partners like ourselves in terms of supporting students at UCLan?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we like to talk about an awful lot at UCLan is that we're producing graduates that are ready for the modern workplace, and the modern workplace is more than ever a digitally enabled workplace. And as Elizabeth already said, so many workplaces are Microsoft-enabled workplaces as well. So having partners who can support and provide us with access to those technology resources and those training and education resources as well is so critical. And a number of our courses now are looking to embed the sorts of things that Cephas talked about in the curriculum as well, to make sure that we are giving students the opportunity to become really well-rounded in all of those different techniques and tools. And as the Director of Learning Information Services, one of my areas of responsibility is obviously IT, and I'm looking for employees, or I'm looking to recruit people with the skills and the expertise that I need in order to support a big, complex institution like a university. And what better place to start than within my own university? So it's in my interest to be supporting our our academic leaders and our program leaders with shaping their curriculum to really sort of help graduates develop and grow in the areas that we know are required by the industries. And having again, Microsoft they cover so many different things. So I mentioned the devices that we've allocated to our people. We've got the learning and teaching sort of elements, but we've also got the sort of cloud capabilities and cybersecurity and all those other aspects that are now part of every industry and everybody's roles. It's great to hear that Excel is so common across all those different industries. Who'd have thought? But it's so important to have those partners so that you're really learning from industry and learning from those partnerships.
And I think we really appreciate partnerships with institutions like yourselves in helping make that happen. So, Elizabeth, I know you've done amazing work in integrating digital skills and into the curriculum itself, but what's the role been for additional certifications? What's the value of professional certifications for students alongside that academic qualification?
Yeah, so at the University of Nottingham, we want to turn out students who have the best possible academic experience reflected in great degree outcomes. A lot of that is also it's really important to balance that out with the employability skills that our students need as they transition out, and for those to be demonstrable. And I think one of the best ways in order to be able to show to an employer that there is a certain level of competence is through professional certification. So for us at the University of Nottingham, that's anything from one end of the spectrum, the Microsoft Office Specialist certification, as I say, particularly looking at Excel, but also Word as well, because we know that as our students come into the institution at the moment, they don't necessarily have that grounding that's come with them from school because of how curricula's changed at secondary level. So that's something that we're looking to address. Whilst at the other end, in terms of those kind of broader or higher level skills, I should say, rather than broader skills around AI, data, cloud, the fundamentals package is really, really helpful. And obviously the Nottingham University Business School is really leading the way in terms of providing that support to students on their programme and offering that kind of deeper learning experience by providing labs around the training and the certification. But for us moving forwards, we're looking to extend these opportunities across the institution. And this is where the digital student will be picking up on Word and Excel, and where the digital graduate will be picking up on the fundamentals qualifications. So, I would say it's really important to be able to give our students the opportunity to show on their CVs that they have that certification to prove competence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, we hear so much about the digital native, students are digital natives, so why do we need to worry about it? But actually, when we look at the skills in those very specific areas, they don't necessarily get exposure to those tools in the same way in secondary school anymore. So getting everybody on the same level to be able to use digital tools to learn is also so critical, as well as then being able to go on and develop the deeper skills. So Cephas, I'm going to turn over to you for really to get, what would be your call to action to institutions in the room? If you could suggest to them key areas to prioritise in enhancing the digital student experience at their universities, what should be the first things that they should focus on in your view?
All right, so the first thing I think they should focus on is trying to partner with the industry. For example, Microsoft, because trying to create that agile technological foundation to develop a student-centered ecosystem that will help the students to thrive and become successful in the real world. So looking at this, it means that they would have to create that technological foundation. For example, partnering with Microsoft, it will help students have that personal career guidance using a career coach, and they will be able to discover their goals aligned with their skills as well. And this will help them to develop the real-world skills and create that professional network, which will increase their employability. It will also provide a world-class curricula and also professional certifications for students. And this is also going to focus on cloud, data analysis, and also AI, which is very prevalent in the modern hybrid workplace. Because every job now is seeking for students and graduates who have the digital capabilities and understandings and competencies. So having this partnership with Microsoft will provide them that platform to help students to gain this kind of skills to help them thrive in the workplace. So in a nutshell, what I think would be best for them to do is to try and partner with them, because undertaking this requires a lot of considerable investment in human and financial capital, which they can't tackle alone. So partner with Microsoft or other industry will help them in providing these services for students. Thank you.
Thanks, Cephas. I think you've put a good challenge out there to institutions to think about how you support students. We have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to turn to our other two panelists. If there were one thing that you could do to enhance your current programs, if you were dreaming really big, no budget, no administrative limits, what would be the next thing that you would want to do? So maybe, Elizabeth, I'll start with you.
I guess going back to the theme of Excel and data literacy, it would be to ensure that all of our first-year students have a basic understanding of that package. It might be as they go into specialist roles later on, or depending on the discipline they're in, they might move to other packages. But being able to use something that's so fundamental in the workplace and understanding how data is used and the value of data, I think that is really what we're looking at the moment.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And how about you, James?
I mean, for me, and it's something we haven't really touched on today, but it's around responding to the sort of, the concept of digital poverty. We have, a broad demographic of students at the University of Central Lancashire, many of whom come to university without a device and without the access to those sorts of technologies that, enable a lot of this stuff. So if we were able to provide everyone with the means to be able to connect and to absorb and to tap into those services, that's what I would do. If I had my magic wand, that's what it would be.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. So I think just in terms of summing up what we've talked about today, I think it's been fascinating, first of all, to hear about the programs and the projects that you're involved in. Really appreciate all of that sharing of your rich experience and pathways that you've been through. I think it was really insightful to get into the details of what you've been doing. And I think as well, what I really loved in the way that you three summed up, I think if we can say, we start off with that inclusive base where we enable every single student to get digital skills for learning, for functioning in a digital society, because after all, that's what we're all living in. And then being able to then deepen those skills from that level into getting an introduction into programming, into coding, understanding data, and then building on that to get into AI, business intelligence, and all of those really deep, rich professional skills that can help you be successful on the workplace. So I think that's a really incredible vision that you've shared with us today. I think for all of you attending in the audience today, we'd love to get the opportunity to also hear back from you. Is that something that resonates with you in your institutions? Don't hesitate to come and have a chat with us afterwards if you can, either with any of us that you see from the panelists today, or over on the Microsoft stand, which you can find over on the other side of the venue. You can get some great demos and exposure to the different skills and learning content that we have, as well as to some of the tools that James was talking about. So don't hesitate to keep the dialogue going. I'd also recommend go and take a look at the white papers that were mentioned. We'll be sharing those through our blogs and live in the videos afterwards that we're sharing on Bett. So it's really superb to have you all here with us and to support on thinking about how we tackle digital learning. I do have one question from the audience, and we do have time to take it. So I'm going to just go to that one. So we have here, is it important also to help students develop a critical approach to the use of digital? So perhaps we could just turn that. Who would like to take that one?
I'm happy to speak to that.
Please
it's really important that our students take a critical lens to everything that they do within their academic programs, and that includes their interactions with digital. And certainly through our program, we're definitely giving students the opportunity to reflect on their level of capability, but also to think about the application of those skills within the context of ethics. So particularly when it comes to, again, the use of data, but also I think just more broadly ensuring that we're not just consuming digital without thinking about how we're using it, how we're interacting with others, what kind of profile we're putting out there of ourselves in that space.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I think that's absolutely crucial. Which tools to use when not to use tools, and also how to use them most ethically. So with that, our time is up. Thank you again for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of Bett and Ahead.